Welcome to the LDN Radio Show, brought to you by the LDN Research Trust. I'm your host, Linda Elsegood. I have an exciting lineup of guest speakers who are LDN experts in their field. We will be discussing low-dose Naltrexone and its many uses in autoimmune diseases, cancers, etc. Thank you for joining us. Today we're joined by Kaitlin from the United States, who has MCAS, POTS, EDS, and she's going to explain her story to us. Thank you for joining us today, Kaitlin.
Thank you for having me.
So, tell us, when did you first notice there was something wrong with you? How long ago was that?
Oh, as a child, really, several small dislocations, pains that were unusual. And then as in my 20s, it picked up greatly. And in 30s, it was like hitting a wall.
Okay. So what about the MCAS?
The MCAS is a fun one where I've noticed I've had severe stomach pains after eating since a child, where I actually developed an eating disorder in my teen years, and I was always hand in hand with stomach pain, and I went through much eating disorder treatment for it. That pain never resolved upon my recovery from an eating disorder. I've just learned to find foods that didn't put me in excruciating pain, and I didn't actually get the formal diagnosis until 2022 at the Mayo Clinic, and it still left me in an unusual place, I guess, where most people are, where the treatment is a little obscure, or it's not such a cut and dry thing as, you need food to eat and what's the next steps, right? And how finding your trigger foods. But I'd say I still struggle with it to this day. I have great days and days where I am essentially keeled over in pain from eating.
Mm-hmm. What about the POTS?
The POTS, I never even considered this as a symptom or a problem until March 2022, when I went to pick up my daughter, and I took the subway, and felt not well walking to the subway. Like any other New Yorker, wasn't thinking, maybe not having a great day. Got down to the bottom of a subway platform and I blacked out, and I smashed my head, smashed my teeth, not out. They didn't know really what was wrong. Everyone was terrific, all these bystanders. And I got, up, felt great right afterwards. As I've learned, my blood pressure recoiled, but it left catastrophic injuries. And that was the beginning of, that was a sudden onset in March 2022.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. So when you were a child, did anybody notice anything? Did the doctor give you anything? Or did you just get on with life?
Got on with life, got through several, like now what I see as comorbidities or other symptoms of it, but really just kept trying to treat, a giant gaping wound with like minor band-aids and getting through, and also a lot of covering up for it, right? If I was not feeling well enough to go to any kind of social gathering or miss school or something, I was always covering up for it.
Makes you feel guilty, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That you can't do what you think and what you want to do, so it must be you that is the issue. So when you were in your 30s, did you get any help from anywhere?
That's kind of when everything really started going forward at a really rapid pace. Luckily, I had this great cardiologist who was following me at the time because they found out I had massive blood clot. And he kept trying to discharge me as a patient, saying, you don't really have a heart problem, it's more of a vascular problem. But he was really this detective. And I think at the time, in hindsight, he was getting ready to retire, but he was just being a detective for me and trying to push me off into the right venues. And he helped me get to so much more than I could have ever possibly done alone, whether that was like to the Mayo Clinic or just finding the proper diagnoses, and also just in my daily life about how to address how I was feeling and not think I was insane on a daily basis. I really credit it to this one doctor who connected me with this whole system.
Mm-hmm. So what treatment and testing did you get?
So it varies, right? The majority of it probably started as vascular, just as observing, right? Scans, monitoring. And then there was some surgeries for stents. Ultimately, I got a pacemaker placed for my POTS as that progressed, or the dysautonomia type symptoms progressed. And on top of that, I've had chronic migraines for since the birth of my daughter. So that's now 14 years. And it was always treating symptoms, trying to find it together. So a lot of pain management mixed in with just monitoring what they could do to kind of keep me alive, right?
Okay. Very tricky when you have all those things going on, and especially with food. I mean, how did you do a total elimination diet and just start with just a few foods and then introduce them, which is very laborious, I know, and it can take a long time.
It is. And I've actually never made it through an entire elimination diet, like as prescribed by a physician. I've tried 3 times, and I think I've given up each time by week 2. I'm just I go crazy. I think it's human torture. I mean, I enjoy food. I want to enjoy food, and I feel better when I eat the foods that I want to eat. So I've never found I know several triggers, but I don't know all of them, and I'm sure I'm missing out on that. I wish there was like a set panel that could really cue into that. That would be that doctor is going to make change the world.
I had a food um, intolerance test several years ago, and it was unbelievable. I mean, gluten and dairy, yes, I
Mhm.
understood. There were some fruits, there were some
Mhm.
vegetables, there were yeast. So that, and yeast meant no dried fruits because there's yeast in that.
Mhm.
It wasn't just bread, products. Lots of things have yeast in them. Um, there was, as I say, there was some fish, and the list was so long, it was so overwhelming. There was hardly anything. It was like traffic lights. There were red ones, then there were amber ones that you could eat but only moderately, and then the few that were green, it was just like, how can you make a meal and live on this?
I agree. I understand that. Yes.
So it was a case of, if I eat something and it makes me ill, well then that will have to go. And it is gluten. I can't get away with gluten. Dairy doesn't
Mhm.
seem to be too bad, and I'm a big
Oh,
cheese
that's
lover.
amazing.
Yeah, so I thought I can do that. Um, I haven't really noticed any fruit or vegetables that make me ill.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I
I
I
think
find I can get away with virtually anything.
that's incredible. I think that's the heart. Like I've cut out gluten, and my husband is the cook in the house. I am not a good cook. So I could survive off of anything. But making a separate like plate for me is often very tedious, right? If I'm making my gluten-free pasta or something very like it takes a lot of effort and cost, right, to include in this. I joke that I don't eat many fruits because I'm allergic to most of them, but I've only had a reaction to a few, and I've just stopped exploring the others just out of pure, like, I don't want to keep going down this path. But it's
What
hard.
about your daughter? Is she fine?
So I have 2 daughters. My
Oh,
14-year-old is has taken over after my husband, and my younger one has unfortunately taken after me in numerous things. With Ehlers-Danlos, she's already broken a bone, a pretty severe bone that required surgery, and she definitely has, without, I mean, a formal diagnosis looks like MCAS. Like she seems to have reactions to foods, stomach pains, all that. So it seems to be unfortunate. Yeah.
oh, that's sad. It's really sad. So, what actual medications, are you taking right now to help?
For the MCAS alone. So right now I'm actually waiting for the prescription of, I'm going to say it wrong though, is it with the CR,
Chromium.
chromium, yes. Yes, they've just prescribed that. I've not picked it up yet. So now the other is just twice a day Xarelto. Sorry, over the counter daily allergy medicine is what the Mayo Clinic asked me to take to try. They said to try, cut it back to once a day if I felt better. But I've noticed that if I take twice a day Zyrtec, I find my symptoms are more manageable. They are not gone. I have chronic, like esophagitis, chronic pain in my throat. Maybe the stomach pain is less, but my throat is always
Don't
an
you
issue.
take an H2 blocker for that?
Yes, that too. And no, it's never changed. That as well. Never
Okay.
changed. So I've had like several endoscopies and they're always amazed at the inflammation they see. And again, trying right after I've tried one right after a reduced diet or the restricted diet, and it seems to have minimal impact.
Oh,
Yeah.
have you considered trying LDN?
So my doctor also just prescribed that. So
Yeah.
I'm very eager to try this. And it's very interesting because I failed most of like all other pain medications in some form, and a few doctors have warned me against this, but I feel like I'm at my end of what I can do, right? It physically hurts to the end of the day to talk or to swallow or to eat sometimes, right? So like this is what my throat does, and I'm hopeful about this.
Well, that's good because the number of people that I've interviewed with MCAS say that once they started LDN, it was a real game changer for them. So I'm hopeful for you. And of course, maybe you could consider your daughter getting it if we could get her stabilized so it
Mhm.
didn't advance as she gets older would be amazing. 'Cause it's bad enough being ill yourself, but it's not nice witnessing a child having
No,
it as well, is it? You know?
no, not at all. No, I feel even more guilt for that level as well, right?
Yes. How
But
old
yeah,
is she?
the younger one, she's 11 right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's pretty astounding to see. I think she's following the same timeline essentially I followed as a child, and to realize that everyone used to make fun of me and say, Katie always gets sick on these vacations or she gets sick here. And it all pieces together. I was eating unusual food or I was forced to be in an unusual environment. Um, and I mean, really, it was like always the joke of the family. And really, I was quite sick, right? I was quite physically sick. And so I really try to make a lot of extra space for her in that sense. And no commentary needed and planning ahead, but it's definitely hard to watch.
hmm. Is she sensitive to smells and light and noise?
All of the above. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Much more so, I would say sound was her first one, like the sound and as a New Yorker, there's always some loud, crazy sound happening when you're walking down the street, and she's very sensitive to that. And I would say light for sure, which we've had her evaluated for migraines already several times. But that now in hindsight goes hand in hand with what she's eating and what she's consuming on a daily basis. It's hard to untie those two.
hmm. And it's difficult when you're a child with eating issues of certain foods. Because if you go out with friends or you go to a birthday party, you're not in control of what food is in front of you. I mean, the
Yes.
option might be, I can't eat any of that,
Mhm.
which is tough for a child, isn't it?
It's very tough. And so I think she's known a few foods she doesn't have proper reactions to, and she distances because she knows she'll be in severe pain. Um, but then the other side too is I feel really guilty as a parent commenting on her diet as a former person with an eating disorder, right? I don't want to impose any of my beliefs on her. So I find sometimes I'm pretty quiet and let her find out, but she definitely has had experiences where I know she's going to go to a party, have pizza, and have a reaction. Like I know Mondays is pizza day at school and she wants to eat it with her friends. Without a doubt, she has a reaction on Mondays at school. It's pretty amazing to see.
Oh, such a
Yeah,
shame.
and that's one of many foods, but we've narrowed it down to several that she can identify readily and know that maybe she needs to eat it and come home if she has to, if that's her plan.
Mm. I can remember taking my grandson and a friend of his out for a meal. I didn't know.
he had severe allergies, and his mum turned up with this bag, and she said he must have been about 11. He knows what he can eat and what he can't, but if he starts to have a really bad reaction and can't swallow, the EpiPen's in there, you just have to hit it with him and call the ambulance. And I'm thinking, I don't want to go now because I'm really worried. So it was a buffet. So there could have been things hidden in the food that he didn't know. And I was saying to him while he was selecting it, be careful, check carefully. So I was eating the whole time, watching this child, thinking, I don't know how I would cope,
Oh no, and the
because
buffet is the kicker. I mean, you just have to be like the ultimate of food potential contaminants and cross contaminants. You're very brave.
I know. I did, but I'd already booked this place because that's where my grandson wanted to go. But it was so stressful, and I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't realize until the mum had turned up, and it was like, oh no. But I thought to myself, this child probably doesn't go out with people very much because they probably go, whoa, no.
Yes.
I didn't get the option of saying no when he stood there, could I?
But what a great memory for him, though, that he'll always remember that buffet. Probably not even realize that you were so stressed out watching it. Oh, that's
I was
so
pleased
sweet.
when it was over, and he was still breathing, and he was fine. But when you live with it all the time, the edge must come off it for the worry if you couldn't have that level of worry all the time.
Yes.
And the child must get used to it, and then you must be able to get into a pattern. But it was just one big shock for me.
Yeah, the level of severity in EpiPen is I think I'm grateful for that part that we're not at that, but it just reaction and that you don't want any of that though. Oh,
No.
very brave.
Exactly. Well, I didn't realize how brave until afterwards, and it was all over. And I thought, I'm not doing that again. I can't take the strain and the stress, or invite the mum to come, someone to look after him. That might have been an idea if I hadn't have already booked and it was fully booked. Anyway.
That's so great.
It was lovely talking to you, and thank
Very
you
lovely.
very much for sharing yours and your daughter's story. Much
Thank you.
appreciated, and
Thank
good
you.
luck with the LDN.
Thank
Let
you.
me
Take
know
care.
how it goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Have a great day.
lovely. Thank you. Bye now.
I'm Dr. Leonard Weinstock, a guy who's been prescribing LDN since 2005, and I've seen the wonders. And I keep on seeing them, especially in hard to diagnose conditions. They're not that hard to do, but once you know about mast cell activation syndrome, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, you'll find that 17% of your friends or relatives have one or more of these conditions, and you can help them. We're making a documentary to wake up the medical community, to educate the population, but we need funding. So please fund whatever you can afford, no matter how little. www.mcasfund.com. That's mcasfund.com.
Any questions or comments you may have, please email me, Linda, Linda, at ldnrt.org. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciated your company. Until next time, stay safe and keep well.